I'm back. Road Rants on Black and White on Pop Culture. And in this case, Road Rants on Star Wars. It's been a while since we've been able to say that. The Mandalorian is back. Season 2 started. I was up at 2:15 in the AM Central Time in Texas. And The Mandalorian wasn't out yet. I actually got up before The Mandalorian came out. Not only a little while, but like an hour and a half. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And that's my own fault. I just got up. My alarm was actually set for like 3:20, and I woke up at 2:08, I think, or something like that. And I decided to just go ahead and get up. So, The Mandalorian started. Season 2, Episode 1, directed by the one and the only great Jon Favreau, who, of course, is the showrunner for this series. And look, the one thing that I think we can safely say about The Mandalorian without a doubt is if you like Star Wars and you like Westerns, you're probably pretty happy right now with The Mandalorian. And that's where I fall, okay? I'm a big fan of Westerns, and I love Star Wars, okay? And The Mandalorian is a Star Wars Western. We continue to see that. It is still in an episodic format, so you can tell that there's an ultimate goal behind the scenes, as we see with good series, which is get Baby Yoda wherever he needs to go. And then you've got activity during an episode that's part of a further goal at some point. And The Mandalorian, it starts out, Baby Yoda and The Mandalorian are, and this is full spoilers. I'm just telling you right now, I'm going to spoil the shit out of this. So, make sure, like if you haven't seen this, especially when I talk about the ending, I don't want to ruin it for you. So bail out if you haven't seen it. So, the episode starts out, and he's walking into a city with Baby Yoda floating along next to him. And the city, in my opinion, it's dark. There's city lights. And I can't exactly tell what planet he is on. But if I just had to gauge a guess, wager a guess, I would say he was on Corellia. That's my guess anyway. Okay, I guess there's an outside shot. He could have been on Coruscant, maybe. Or he could have been on any other random new planet that we don't know about. But there was definitely city there, okay? There was creatures lurking in the shadows with red eyes that looked like critters from the old sci-fi horror franchise that was really entertaining back in the day. I'm a horror guy, so... those first couple of Critter movies were actually pretty good. And he comes up to a building, and there's a Twi'lek out there. Not Bib Fortuna, but you get the point, okay? And he lets him in, and there's some fighting going on. And up in the ring is two Gamorreans, okay? I can't call them Gamorrean guards because they're not guarding anybody, okay? Jabba's gone. Not to say that they couldn't guard somebody, but you get the point. They're in a boxing ring and they're fighting, and we finally get to see those axes. Remember, the Gamorreans always have those big, thick, almost like a combination of a large, ridiculous butcher knife and an axe together. Well, we get to see those in action. And there's some kind of like energy around those axes when they swing it and they collide, whatever. And he's meeting up with a guy because the Mandalorian is convinced himself that he needs to hook up with other Mandalorians in order to ultimately, it looks like, get to the Jedi. Okay, he's trying to deliver Baby Yoda, it looks like, to the Jedi. And little does he know, there's not many Jedi left, okay? At this point, we can only think of two. And I don't know if, technically speaking, Ahsoka is a Jedi. I wouldn't think that she technically is. But we know Luke is. Okay? So we know that for a fact. We don't know what the hell Moff Gideon is just yet. A lot of speculation around him and the Force. He meets up with a guy, and of course, the guy tells him, well, number one, there's a confrontation there because the guy tries to double cross him so he could get Baby Yoda. And so he unleashes the birds, right? And takes them all out, and then kills a couple of other miscellaneous guys, and then drags the guy outside. The guy's running off. He uses his wire, wraps it around his legs, pulls him up, hangs the guy up, and the guy was like, "Hey, help! Let me down." The Mandalorian was like, "Where is the other Mandalorians?" And he says, "Tatooine." He was like, "Tatooine? I'm always on Tatooine. There ain't no Mandalorians there." He said, "I'm telling you, there's a Mandalorian there." And of course, immediately it piqued our interest. And what I'll tell you before we get around to everything, shit, I was right about it all so far. So far, the things that I predicted have come to pass, okay, in this episode. All right? Two main things, anyway. So, he says, okay, heads back to Tatooine. He gets there. He hooks up with that old gal that repaired his ship. She's still a hot mess. And they're working on the ship, the little droids. And all of a sudden, he's much more accepting of droids after IG-11. So we have some character progression right there from The Mandalorian, from season 1 to season 2. A little more accepting of droids. And there's a very cool moment where the original R5-D4 comes rolling out to show a map of Tatooine. The original. Remember Red? Come on, Red. From A New Hope that blew a plug and R2 ended up going with Luke during the famous Jawa scene at the beginning of A New Hope. This is that R4 unit, or R5 unit. And so that was very cool. Jon Favreau put that in there. And that's the sort of like Star Wars-y goodness we love, with him sort of always tipping his cap, always a nod, always the correct tone towards what George Lucas had in mind with Star Wars. And again, very much like a Western, very much like a series. These episodes are sort of built around some sort of a goal, and we find out there is going to be a in-episode goal that's got to be completed. Well, he finds out that there's another town that not a lot of people have anything to do with, and somebody in that town is wearing Mandalorian armor. This is where one of my predictions is absolutely comes to pass. He gets out there, he goes into a cantina. There's a Weequay in there, pretty cool, as the bartender. And he's asking around. All of a sudden, he turns around, and somebody wearing Boba Fett's armor is standing there. Really cool moment. Really cool moment. The guy's tall. He's skinny. Immediately, I know it's Timothy Oliphant from Justified in Deadwood. They get to talking. Sure enough, it is Cobb Vanth. I called it. We called it. The people on this channel called it. So we knew Cobb Vanth was coming, and I called that he would be the one to wear the Boba Fett armor, because that was something that came to pass, I believe, in one of the books, which is, maybe it was somewhere in Aftermath, maybe. Now, there is, and I don't read those books, but I knew from researching some of the storylines around those books that he had gotten, and it showed it. Him getting the armor from that sandcrawler as he was in the desert. They had Boba's armor. They had picked it up. Now, the coolest part about that, and you can see there's real acid damage on Boba's old armor, okay? But Boba's old armor made it out, right? made it out of the Sarlacc pit. So you're like, very interesting, okay? Now, there's a creature that comes through town under the ground called a Leviathan. Leviathan dragon or something like that. And evidently, Timothy Oliphant is worried about this dragon at some point eating the entire town. Understandable. And the Mandalorian's like, you're not a Mandalorian, give me that armor. And Timothy Oliphant is like, well, you're going to have to take it. And so, automatically I'm like, okay, Timothy Oliphant always plays a gunslinger. So this is very interesting. And what's funny is he, in many ways, he plays Raylan Givens from Justified in this episode. Pretty interesting. Always laid back, always kind of sly, but has that quiet, cool, old school confidence, you know. And that's the kind of character he plays. He always plays a gunslinger, whether it was Deadwood or Justified or some of these other things. And we can't sleep on him in A Perfect Getaway. He's great in that movie with Steve Zahn and Mila Jovovich. I guess that's her name. The Resident Evil girl. Fifth Element girl. So anyway, they've decided, he says, okay, if you help me get rid of this creature that goes under the sand, and I believe it was the same creature that came out from under the ice in the first episode of The Mandalorian in season 1. So I guess they're all in all kinds of different environments, but I think it's the same kind of creature. I might be wrong. So they say, okay, fine. I'll help you do that, and then I'm taking the armor. And so they agree to get the Tusken Raiders involved. A lot of Tusken Raiders in this. Timothy Oliphant, Cobb Vanth, he don't trust the Tuskens. The Mandalorian, he's on a first sign language basis with the Tusken Raiders. Very cool interactions. It's cool that we get to see characters like that were like ancillary characters in Star Wars, but you get to see like a little more depth to them. And it also adds something. This is something I wanted to talk about. This also adds something to Anakin Skywalker having slaughtered all the Jawas or all the Sand People, because you realize the Sand People really and truly are they're like nomad, almost like old Native American Indians, that type. You know, they've got their own communities, their own communal things, all their own customs and all this sort of thing. And you think back and realize, yeah, Anakin Skywalker just slaughtered a bunch of folks, you know? So it adds a little something to Anakin's episode 2 massacre, right? Anyway, as with Westerns, the townspeople, the Sand People, they all get together reluctantly to work with each other for a common goal, and that's to defeat this Leviathan dragon. And yeah, they ended up having this big confrontation. Now they get to this hole in the side of a canyon, and they're like, he lives in there. Well, what is that? They're like, it's an old Sarlacc pit. And he's like, what happened to the Sarlacc? He ate it. We were like, whoa, okay. That's kind of, that's the Star Wars cool factor, okay, that Jon Favreau brings. This thing is such a badass that it just eats Sarlaccs. And you find out this thing, like, throws up or spits out some kind of liquid that looks like acid from aliens, okay? So you're like, oh, crap. Tusken Raiders are getting killed all over the place in this thing. They're bantha fodder in The Mandalorian, all right? So they complete their goal, their task. They kill this thing, all right? And now a couple of things in this episode we want to recognize. No Grief Karga, no Cara Dune, no Moff Gideon. But don't worry, I'm getting to this ending. Because we knew after season 1 and that mic drop moment, the whole episode, especially the second half of the episode, and when they got to the towards the ending where they were fighting this dragon, this Leviathan dragon, I was like, I was like, they're being watched right now. They are literally being watched. I'm like, somebody is stalking the whole group. And I don't know why I had that feeling, but I was just like, this is not going to just roll off like this, and this is over. So anyway, Cobb Vanth gives Boba Fett's armor back to the Mandalorian because, Timothy, at the moment Timothy removed his helmet, the Mandalorian knew, well, you're not Mandalorian, right? We don't remove our helmets. But George Lucas famously said neither Jango Fett nor Boba Fett were Mandalorians. They just wore Mandalorian armor. But we've seen Boba Fett in the Clone Wars wear all kinds of armor. And I called it. I said, if Boba shows up, Cobb Vanth is going to wear the Boba Fett armor, and Boba will have a new getup in this thing. Okay? He will look different. Same actor. I mean, Tamora Morrison is coming back. We knew that. So anyway, we get to the very end, and as the Mandalorian's speeding off on his bike, we come around to the sunset that's so famous on Tatooine, and there's somebody standing on the side of a hill watching. And you see the rifle back there. You hear that noise, that distinct noise. Turns around, and it's Tamora Morrison. It's Boba Fett. Boba Fett is alive, confirmed. It's a thing. He got out of the Sarlacc. We knew that when they found the armor outside the Sarlacc. Boba Fett is alive. Tamora Morrison is going to play him. He had that rifle with him. And a couple of the little things that we're used to seeing had sort of like a poncho cape get up that hangs, which goes back to the episode in the first season where we saw, they said that was Boba Fett at the end. Okay? So we called that. We called that correctly. We had Cobb Vanth in the old Boba Fett get up. We had Tamora Morrison looking different somehow than he originally looked. And in my opinion, and you tell me in the comments what you think, I believe that Boba Fett is hunting the Mandalorian. I believe he's going after the bounty of Baby Yoda. Now, I'm going to make a prediction. It's not going to go down that way. Exactly, right? I don't think they bring Boba back just to kill him. You're going to have him survive the Sarlacc pit and then kill him off. Now, this is another thing we need to recognize about Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau's got enough influence with Lucasfilm. He just brought back Boba Fett. He just brought him back. Okay? He made that call, and Boba Fett lives. So you brought a significant character back. You made that call. So Jon Favreau's got significant juice in Lucasfilm. There's no doubt about it. Now, I'm gonna recognize something about this episode. This episode was good, but it was not great. Okay? It was good, but it was not great. I give it maybe a 7.5 out of 10. Okay? There was nothing that would just blow your mind outside of seeing Boba Fett's armor again. Very cool. Very, very cool. And then seeing Tamora Morrison, Boba Fett at the very end. Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 moment. It's a 10 out of 10 moment. But the rest of the episode is very much like an episodic Western series. Very much reminiscent of an episodic Western series that's set in the Star Wars landscape. Good episode. I mean, it's a good start to the season, and it's a great mic drop moment at the end. Okay? But overall, wasn't great, but it was just good. It was good. And yeah, does it make, I was talking to John Matrix. Yeah, we're both up this early. I was talking to John Matrix while we were both watching the episode, and he was like, he was a little bit ahead of me somehow, and he said, wait till this ending. He said, I'm hype. And I was like, oh, shit. And I had a feeling when he said that, I said, here we go. He's going to be at the end of this episode. Boba's at the end of this episode. And so it's a moment that gets you completely fired up and launches you into the rest of the season. You're like, oh, the rest of the season is officially wildly more interesting now that we can confirm that Boba Fett is out there. We've seen him. He's lurking around. And what is going to be his interaction in this series and with the Mandalorian? Because it is my feeling, and I want to get this out, we've talked about it before, it's my feeling that they will have a confrontation and it will be somewhat of a stalemate, okay? And then they will come to sort of an agreement, and then they will end up working together for a common goal against a different enemy. Who that enemy's going to be, I don't know. Now, what's interesting about that is this sets up some wild possibilities. Are we going to see Ahsoka Tano and Boba Fett have a confrontation? Very cool. I believe Ahsoka Tano and the Mandalorian have a confrontation at some point. I think that could happen, okay? But I think the Boba Fett Mandalorian dynamic is going to be somewhat reminiscent of Batman versus Superman, okay? Which is disagreements early, leads to a confrontation, and decides we're going to work together after the fact on some other goal, okay, that we feel will benefit everybody. Maybe Boba Fett realizes, yeah, there's something to this bounty, just like the Mandalorian did, and he's like, yeah, maybe we find out Boba Fett and Moff Gideon has a history, and maybe Boba hates him, okay? So the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We don't know yet. Tell me what you think. Black and White Squadron. What did you think? The Mandalorian was good? Not great. Not great. A 7.5 out of 10 episode, but a 10 out of 10 mic drop ending. Okay? So cool to see Tamora Morrison back. So cool to see the Boba Fett armor. So cool to see Timothy Olyphant in the Star Wars world. One of my favorite actors is now officially in Star Wars canon. That is very cool. So now we go through this whole thing where we wait another week. Here we go. Peace. I'm out. Jon Favreau does good Star Wars. Till next time.